Hello, everybody. It's Chris from Black Land Ownership. Normally, I'm out here on my morning walk and we talk about society or philosophy or morality, and I don't have the camera face me. But today, I do want to make a personal statement, and so I do want you to be able to see me. I have been having conversations with people since 2017 about land ownership and the need for people of African descent and members of the African diaspora to own more land in America as well as worldwide. A person can immediately say all land ownership is faulty, exploitative, and rooted in colonial endeavors. I don't agree or disagree with that statement. That is a statement that could be made, and in America, being as land ownership is rooted in theft and stolen land from native folks, I understand why people would say it. As a black person, am I supposed to be a renter my entire life because of what colonists did, and I happen to be born in a certain geographic location? So while I am in a space where we are allowed to own land, our contracts are legally enforced, I encourage people of African descent to own more land, to steward land, to understand non-exploitative uses for land, to not repeat what the colonists did with the land, to reintroduce some of the traditional practices and the technologies that were being implemented from West Africa, that were being implemented by the indigenous folks that were here before the colonists. And I think for our minds, our hearts, our souls, our bodies, on a full, holistic perspective, having access to land outside of our urban area is important. So if you want to buy a house or land within a city, I encourage it. But if you also want to buy land where you have more space, where you have trees, lakes, rivers, ponds, the myriad and plethora of animals and wildlife and biodiversity, I encourage that. And I think there's something for people who have been living in cities where, like me, I grew up in Washington, D.C., I lived in Atlanta, and then I lived in New York City. I didn't know the possibilities of what life could be outside of a city. I grew up thinking there's nothing to do if you leave the city. There are no people to meet if you leave the city. Folks are racist if you leave the city. It's hard to make money if you leave the city. All these things that stop me from pursuing it. I get it. And in the past 8 years, we've been on the journey and on the exploration to see if we could get land. And the first 2 or 3 years was just research, was just talk, was just me traveling and seeing places and meeting people. But in the past 4 or 5 years, we now own multiple properties. And I'm constantly having a conversation with people. Start preparing to buy land. If you live in New York City, buying a house might be what? It's $400,000, $500,000 for a condo. A building out in Queens might be $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 for a pretty small house, and who knows what kind of neighborhood. A building like in Brooklyn, you're talking about $2 million, 1.5, $2 million. A brownstone in Harlem, you might be at like now $3 million, $2 million or something like that. I don't see that getting easier over time as more people move to New York City. In Washington, D.C., the average cost of a house, I believe, is $600,000. On the low end, in areas where you'd probably be afraid to live, you're still talking $300,000, $400,000, and you have to put money into it. Out in these rural areas, you can find 20-acre properties with lake access for under $200,000. All right? Now, I'm not here to say whether or not you can save that money or not, or whether or not the banks are running game, or whether or not a mortgage is a hustle. That's another conversation. What I'm saying is, in New York City, if it's $2 million for a house that sits on a half acre, and out here in Richfield Springs, you can get 22 acres with lake access for $200,000, it's something to consider. Now, people would say, I don't want to live in upstate New York. I don't want to live in rural America. I didn't say you had to move anywhere. We're talking about investment. We're talking about your future. We're talking about not being renters your entire life. And once you own property, you can then borrow against your own equity. Once you own property, and I'm not talking property, you can then borrow against your own equity. Once you own property, and I'm not talking about a reverse mortgage, I'm not talking about a mortgage, you are literally allowed to pull money out using your house as not even the collateral. And if you buy it as a business. And so what I'm trying to tell folks is we just saw, it's I don't know if it's a preschool, play school, summer camp, but there's a lot that we saw up here. $169,000, 3 or 4 different buildings, 5 acres, already zoned for mixed use. So you could run a business and live on that property. I sent my homie a note, and also shout out to my homie. This is not to disparage him, but I sent him a note like, yo, check this shit out. $169,000. Look at all that we could do. And he sent a note back like, yeah, but who got money for that? And I'm like, wait, $169 for the 5 acres and the buildings on it, and it's zoned for mixed use? People got what are you talking about? What do you mean? Motherfuckers buy $800,000 houses. There are people we know who have bought $600,000 houses, $700,000 houses, and that's between 1 or 2 people. If 4 people wanted, that's $40,000 each. That seems like a lot of money. I don't have $40,000. When you buy a property, you're thinking 20 years in the future. It's not a now issue. So over 20 years, what's $40,000 per person? $2,000 a year. Hold up. So all the people being like, the money is too hard to whatever. Hold on. Let me ask you this question. You and 3 homies over 20 years can't save $40,000 each? I guarantee you can. And I'll tell you how. In 1 year, $2,000. That's the breakdown. The building is $160,000. You got 4 homies. You want to own the building for 20 years. That is $40,000 a person over 20 years. That's $2,000 a year. If you drink alcohol, I bet you spend more than $2,000 a year on alcohol. If you smoke weed, I bet you spend more than $2,000 a year on weed. If you take people out, I bet you spend more than $2,000 a year hoping to get a date with a woman or man or a person that you're interested in. There are so many things that we waste money on that when people look at me and say, I can't afford to buy property, they're liars or uninformed. And I try to be nice about this. I try not to yell at people. I try not to do the like, you need to, but I'm old and I'm getting older and it's starting to stress me out. All the people I know who are renters and at the control of other people, all the people I know who are not able to generate equity, are not gaining equity, are not investing in themselves. So I lived in Bushwick for 15 years. My personal rent on average was $1,000 a month. So in 1 year, I gave my landlord $12,000. I lived there for 15 years. I effectively gave my landlord over $100,000 over the course of the 15 years that I lived there. Now, double that because I live with 3 other people. So in reality, if our rent was $2,400 to almost, or actually, my rent was closer to $700 a month for the majority of the time, $700-800. So let's do 800 times 12. That's $9,600 every year, and I did that for over 10 years. So I gave my landlord way more than the money that I could put into this property coming up. So we have the money available. And I think people are just scared, shook, and they've told themselves they can't before they tried. How many people have gone to a club or bar and hit on every person there, and they fail a lot, but then, somebody wants to go home with them? How many banks have you gone into and actually spoken about buying property? All the people I know who say they can't get property, that they can't save the money, that they can't. How many of them went to everyone they know and say, yo, I need a loan? How many of them went to any faith-based organization they're a part of and said, yo, I'm trying to buy property. How do we make this happen? How many of them have visited any of the websites or home assistance programs? Almost none. And so all the time people tell me it's too hard to buy land. It's too difficult. What are we going to do with the land? Blah, 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 blah. I don't mean to be rude. Like, it's not blah, blah, blah. It's real. It's your opinion. It's your thoughts. It's your feelings. But motherfuckers ain't tried to do the research yet. People didn't look into it. You know who is one of the least likely people to ever be able to do stuff with land? Me. And it's not that I figured it out because I'm special or smart. It's the opposite. It's that if I could figure it out, I know you can. If I could get my shit together, there isn't a person less likely to buy property on paper than me. I've been making art and music for over 25 years. I've never had a standard job as an adult. I have no history of standardized income. But what you can do is start an LLC. What you can do is begin to pay your taxes. And what you can do is start establishing a financial life for that entity of the LLC. And you can then purchase property under the name of that LLC. And if there are 4 of y'all, 1 or 2 of you might be like me, where on paper you're horrible, but you know how to do other things. You're able to do the research. You're able to do fill in the blank. And 1 or 2 of the homies has good credit. But for a $160,000 building that's mixed use with 5 acres, 3 buildings on it, so a 160-acre lot, that's nothing. Like, yo, buildings cost millions of dollars in other places. In our town, Richfield Springs, you could buy a building on Main Street for $400,000 to $700,000. Now you're gonna have to put $700,000 into it. So you put $1.5 million in it. You own a building with 8 apartments in it. In other parts of the country, you put in 1.5, you're in a house. You're just in a regular house. You are not even in multifamily house yet. So I would just, don't short sale yourself. Every time you start thinking, I can't save money, rethink that. Every time you think it's too difficult to buy property, rethink that. Every time you're like, man, none of my homies are down, rethink that. There are so many opportunities for us. And there are groups of people, real estate investment trusts, with over 100 people that are investing in properties at a time. So it's not like you only have to go up with 1 or 2 people. We have this notion of you get married, or you have a partner, or you have a best friend, and then you buy a property together. No, there are people that go up 15, 20 deep to buy properties all over the country. There are people that go up 100 deep. I'm dead ass serious. If you look up real estate investment trust, you need 100 people in the agreement in order for it to exist. Wait, so you're telling me it's hundreds of people investing in properties that they never go see, never have anything to do with? It's just an investment? Yes. And why aren't we thinking like this? Why are we thinking it's supposed to be our individual burden? Why aren't we learning how to set up the LLCs, how to establish a line of credit for your business, for you personally, pay your taxes or whatever you have to do to then be eligible for some of the programs, and start stewarding land, having a better understanding of stewardship and non-exploitative use. What am I sitting on? This might look like nothing to y'all. This is money. I don't know how to make any money from this, but people who know what they're doing know how to sell these logs as timber to different mills, whether it's a paper mill, whether it's a pulp mill, whether it's a lumber mill. There are different types of mills. You get out here, there is money to be made. I'm in a boat yard. The Bama fixes boats, and he stores them over the winter. Money to be made. Now, do you know how to fix a boat? That's what I'm saying. You may have to learn some new skills to come out here. But that's what life is about. We're humans. We adapt. We grow. We change. We learn. And we do hard shit. Anyone who's sitting there like, oh, but it would be hard to own land. It's okay. You've already done hard shit. I guarantee in your life, you have already surmounted some obstacles people thought you would never get over. And you have. So and I know we believe in ourselves in certain ways. It's like, I'm going to, you're like 40 years old. You're like, you know what? I'm going to be an astronaut. And you're like, well, are you going to go to, I don't know, into the military, learn to be a pilot, become an engineer, do the things? The person's like, no. Well, I'm not going to tell them they can't be an astronaut. It's going to be hard. But then another person, when I'm like, you can buy land. They're like, oh, I can't buy land. It's impossible to buy land. What's way more likely is that you'll buy land to be an astronaut. But I think you can do both. So just don't short yourself. Don't shortchange yourself. Although I'm very fiery today and I'm excited and I'm kind of mad that people keep talking themselves out of land ownership, that's okay. Just know the math works. If there's a $160,000 property, you and 3 friends, total of 4 people, decide to go up on it equally and hold it for 20 years, that's $2,000 a year per person that's owed. Once you pay the down payment, if it's $160,000 and you're able to pay the $30,000 up front, and the mortgage is going to be then $130,000, you're going to be paying something like, if it's 4 people, $300 a month mortgage. You can handle that. All right, so let's just get it together and come hang out with these birds. You hear them? They telling you what's up. Come sit out here on the natural log arrangement and holler at me. Black land ownership. Peace, y'all.